So in Florida, you have a number of regional authorities who build, maintain, and operate toll facilities. You see some of them listed here. You have THEA for, Tampa Bay area. MDX is down in Miami. CFX is Central Florida. They're headquartered in Orlando. You see them in the orange. You have Leeway, which is down in Sarasota County. And you have Mid-Bay Bridge Authority, which is up there in the Panhandle. You see a little blue dot. They have a bridge facility that they built, maintain. You also have the biggest players are the Florida Turnpike Enterprise and Florida DOT. Believe it or not, DOT and the Turnpike each own their own toll facilities, while the Turnpike actually does the toll collections for DOT-owned facilities. They actually own toll facilities separate from the Turnpike. So here in Tampa Bay, and of course you see us, Leroy Selmon, down there in the red in the Tampa Bay. Here in Tampa Bay, you have three players. You have the DOT, which owns the Skyway Bridge to the south. They also own the Pinellas Bayway bridges, which we didn't highlight on here. You have the FTE, which I mentioned when we first introduced ourselves, Sharon, which is they own the Veterans Expressway and the Suncoast, which goes north further. And they also own and operate the I-4 connector. On the Skyway Bridge, the Turnpike does the toll collection there for DOT as well. But THEA owns and operates the Leroy Selmon Expressway. And I'll talk a little bit about what THEA is next here. THEA is the Tampa Hillsborough Expressway Authority, is created under state statute. So we say we're an agency of the state because we're created under statute. We receive no tax funding. Like a business, our revenues come from our user fees paid by our customers. Our projects are financed using cash and bonds backed by those toll revenues. And all of our tolls, the key differences between us and the Turnpike and the DOT is all the tolls that are paid on our facility stay in Hillsborough County to maintain, operate, and build other toll facilities. And we're also governed by a local board. I don't report to the county. I don't report to the state. I don't report to the city. I have a board of 7 members who we report to and authorize all of our work. Our board members are 4 citizens of Hillsborough County appointed by the governor. Right now, that's a Mr. Vince Cassidy, Mr. Danny Alvarez, Bennett Barrow, John Weatherford, and we also have 2 elected officials. Mayor Jane Castor sits on our board, and right now one of the county commissioners who they picked to sit on our board, one of their members, the current member is Ken Hagan, who's the county commission member, and we also have District 7 Secretary David Gwynn is the 7th member of my board, and they're the ones who oversee and administer the agency. We own what we call 4 properties. Primary, of course, is the Leroy Selmon Expressway. That's a 17-mile long facility, recently extended by 2 miles, which I'll talk about a little bit further on. But we also own some feeder roads, we call them, out at Brandon Parkway and Meridian Avenue downtown. We own, maintain, and operate those facilities. And if you ever get a chance to drive them, or if you have, you'll note that they're very well landscaped and lit. And we take pride in that. We spend a lot of money making sure they're some of the best looking facilities in the Tampa Bay region, which I think they are. We also do things like first mile, last mile. We built a Selmon Greenway, which is about almost 2 miles, 1.5 miles to 2 miles. It's a trail downtown Tampa going from the Riverwalk up to Ybor area that runs mostly in the shade of the Leroy Selmon Expressway. We have pocket parks along that facility, the highlight of which is a dog park we have right out behind our administration building, that if you ever get a chance to go over to the John Kafila Memorial Dog Park, I would encourage you to do that. It's very well used and it's a great facility. People out there all the time because it's under the Selmon Expressway, rain or shine, they can take their dogs out and they don't have to worry about, exposure to the elements. So I'm going to talk now about our latest addition to the Selmon Expressway, which was a 2-mile add-on from Dale Mabry down to the Gandy Bridge. And you're seeing a nice overview of it right here. This being the Dale Mabry interchange at Gandy. In effect, here's Dale Mabry right here, and there's Gandy running toward the bay. This was built to separate local and regional traffic running in the Gandy corridor. We wanted to separate that traffic because neither one, they were both suffering, trying to occupy a constrained corridor that basically traffic signals made it an ongoing and very congested trip for everybody. Our overarching goal with that project and every project is to make sure we keep the promises we make when we take a project on and we do the planning, we show the customers, the citizens or the affected stakeholders, you know, this is what it's going to look like, this is what it'll do. And it's really great when you look at this picture, you see a rendering bottom left that we included in our planning process 4 years ago to say, this is what we think it'll look like when we're done. And the top right, you see an actual picture, and they're virtually identical. The colors changed because we went through a community process to say, you know, what color do you want this column to be filled in here with? And they picked a different color than we were showing at the time. They did good. It's a better looking color than we had planned out going in. And on the top side view, again, another rendering is highlighting some of what is unique about this facility. We took great care when we were designing this facility. It's basically almost a 2-mile section of bridge going down an intensely occupied business corridor. So all the businesses were very concerned about disrupting traffic during construction. We did everything we could to minimize that construction. But really key for them was, well, what are you going to leave us with when the day is done? You know, are you going to create an obstacle to my businesses, for the communities? And why I'm focused on that conversation right here is because you see here on the top side a unique element we call the fin back. That bridge is a combination of segmental and suspension elements. It's unique in the world. I haven't seen another one like it. In our research, we haven't identified anything. By combining that suspension element at certain points, along with a traditional segmental bridge, we were able to do things like increase the span length of the piers from typically 140 feet to over 200 feet. That meant we reduced the number of piers that you would see when you're driving along Gandy corridor on the bottom. It also meant that, well, part of our concept was to elevate that bridge section so that it wasn't just 15 feet high from bottom to top, that in fact, from the ground level to the bottom of that bridge deck you see in this picture is typically 16 feet. We elevated this 17 feet. That in combination with reducing the piers meant you could drive that corridor and you could see businesses on either side much more easily. And by elevating it, you reduce the visual mass of what, you know, so you reduce what the perceived burden of the facility is going through it. And I'm going to show you a video here shortly that gives an even better element. And when we do these kind of projects, as you're seeing here, we consider aesthetics that would include landscaping and lighting in everything we do. So this picture highlights a little bit of that. And I invite you to go down there and drive it because it looks, I think it's beautiful, and that's not just me. Well, it is just me, and I'm into this kind of thing. So I think that kind of construction can be attractive, and I think it is attractive. But a lot of the people who have ridden it and have driven both Gandy Boulevard say it looks great. We put a lot of money into both the lighting and the landscaping, and it shows. I'm going to show you now a brief video. It's kind of time-lapse video of construction. You'll get to see at the end of this video how it looks really good. So I'll start this off now.
Sometimes it's not too bad. So you said 17 feet.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll straighten that out. So that was the video. And I want to clarify, we increased the height from a typical 16 feet to 30 feet. It should have been apparent in the video that the difference from the roadway elevation to the bottom of that deck is 30-foot high. It looks good. I encourage you to go drive to the Gandy Boulevard or even walk along it. It's quite attractive. Also, there's a lot of good businesses down there now that it's much easier to get to than it used to be 3 years ago. We've already, that extension is pulling 30% at least of the traffic that was on Gandy Boulevard up onto that extension. Those were people who had no destination in the Gandy Boulevard area. It's just that it was the only corridor available to them to make their, their trip. So they had to go through that. So we pulled that out of the community and basically left that roadway available to the businesses and residents who live along the Gandy corridor for an improved condition for them. Our studies consistently show that when you have capacity on the expressway, you're actually taking traffic that would normally try to weave through local communities, and you're giving them a better choice and a faster choice to take that toll road to the point that they're even willing to pay you for the benefit of doing that. That is what toll agencies do. We sell time to customers. If we can save you 10 or 15 minutes, that's the toll value that we accrue to pay for the building, maintenance, and operations of our facilities. So if we're not saving you time and trouble, we're not going to use the asset. So that's a big project we just completed. So now I'm going to start talking to you a little bit about what's next and what we're working on. Well, first I got to get by that. Here we go. So I'm going to start small. I don't know if anybody's familiar with the Reversible Express Lanes, but at the western end, the express lanes come down and end at Twig Street. Is my mouse showing on your monitor at all?
Yeah.
Okay. So Twig Street is right here. And we have right now traffic coming this way in the morning, which is westbound, heads up Twigs, and it's backing up half a mile to a mile to make that turn. So we're actually adding another lane here.
No,
And
it's not showing up.
Pardon me?
It's not showing up.
I can't get it. I'm sorry. But that pink highlighted area is where we're adding another lane to carry traffic up to Nebraska and Twigs to reduce that queuing. And that's about a $4 million contract. It was let, it's a design build. So it was let a while ago, but you won't see construction starting there until sometime this summer. In hand with that is on Nebraska Avenue, which you see there, we have another project in PD&E, and here's, highlighting that area where we want to carry traffic around that Twig Street and up to Nebraska to further relieve congestion on Twig Street down in the area of the courthouse. That project is in the planning stage right now. It's a $14 million project that will, again, reduce congestion on Twig Street, helping traffic move up to Cass Street for the morning commutes and evening commutes in and out of downtown Tampa. Next, we have a project that, again, ties into Nebraska, because Nebraska, one of the elements it's looking out into is tying into a future Whiting Street improvement that we're going to build. And that's what this slide is about. The Whiting Street PD&E is about a $38 million project as it's currently identified in the planning process that will cut through was an existing rail yard. You have two areas circled on this chart. The top area is actually an area that we would cut through from existing Whiting Street on the left side over to Meridian Boulevard. Right now, that's occupied by a rail yard that's serving the flour mill. And I don't know if you all are familiar with this part of downtown Tampa, but this is where the Vinnick Development, SPP Partners, is building Water Street. So this is just north of the Water Street development. A lot of new construction going in there. And when that flour mill goes away, which SPP bought, when the flour mill goes away, the rail yard, which we own, will revert to us, and we're going to cut through Whiting Street. And the intent is to improve the grid, the city grid down there, and provide better transportation access And we're also going to do another significant improvement as part of this project, which is that bottom circle is highlighting our downtown eastbound exit ramps. We're going to do some significant improvements on that to spread out some of the traffic and improve the flow there. I'll highlight first on that ramp construction area. In the bottom left slide, you see back in the shadow there, you see some roadways that have X's through them. You have a small loop that brings you around and takes you north on the Florida. And you have another one that comes straight down to Amalie Arena right now. Well, we're going to take that ramp out, the one that's highlighted with the number 1 on it. That's going to go away. And the ramp that currently brings you up to Florida is going to be elongated and double and even triple lane to create greater storage. And we're going to signalize where that ramp currently comes into Florida. This is all to improve pedestrian and cycling safety needs. We're also build this, the right side of that elevated so that you actually create a pedestrian path that's green that goes through that inside of the interchange, so people can have easy access with pedestrians or bikes to get north and south through this area. And if you look in the top area, you see number 3. Number 3 is actually where we took out the ramp number 1 below. We're going to take that ramp and we're going to run it all the way down to the new Whiting Street cut through that we're creating. So that's what number 3 is. And there's a minor change to the existing ramp that I'm not going to waste time talking about right now that would take you from, what is that street there? Jefferson Street onto the Selmon Expressway going eastbound. So that's part of the project. And now here's the Whiting Street component of the project. At Whiting Street, which is, exists right now up to and under the Selmon Expressway, and you see this rail yards that I was talking about. We evaluated 2 alternates. Alternate 1 on the left came down to existing Whiting Street over to the west. And when we look at that, when we're looking at that, it just doesn't work all that well because there's some through movements that absorb a lot of what would be intersection time. So we came up with alternate 2, which creates another intersection just above the existing Whiting Street intersection. And we found that by splitting that traffic out with 2 signals and have those signals working in tandem, we actually get greater transportation capacity out of that. And as that Water Street development continues from south to north, and they come up into that area that's in the bottom or below Whiting Street, there's going to be an opportunity to create another connection to Whiting Street, again, to enhance the city grid down there, again, to enhance a lot of the pedestrian and bicycle needs. The city wants to build a bike track on Cumberland, which is just to the south of these. And by making this Whiting Street cut through, that'll enhance that potential for them to do that. Building a lot of the Vision Zero complementary elements for pedestrian and bike safety. This is, and that's part of everything we do now within our projects. So that's the Whiting Street project. Big projects coming up, not that $38 million is small, but when we look east on this, we're talking about the Selmon East. This is about a 6-mile segment you see highlighted in gold there of the Selmon Expressway. Over the next 10 years, this is about $500 million worth of improvements that are going to be broken into 3 phases. We actually accelerated a little piece of that we want to build 2 new ramps for the reversible express lanes. And I'm depending on you knowing something about the facility. And if you don't, it's just too hard to explain. But right now, the reversible express lanes run from Brandon to Twig Street, which I talked about that western end earlier. We want to create an earlier opportunity to get on the reversible express lanes in the morning, where you come around from I-75, which is that north-south road you see out there, give you a chance to get on the REL sooner. But more critically, so the benefit there is it's going to free up a lot of capacity where you have a choke point where 301 comes on and off of the Selmon Expressway and on and off of the REL in the morning. We're going to create another exit ramp that doesn't exist today out in the area of IKEA. It's just to the west of the I-4 connector onto the Selmon. that will give you an opportunity to get out of the REL and back onto the local lanes of the Selmon Expressway. Because right now, when you get on the REL, you can only get off either at 301 in the far, eastern side, or get off at Twig Street. By creating this new connection out in the area of IKEA or just past the I-4 connector, you can then get back onto the Selmon and take it all the way down to the Gandy Bridge for a continuous, no traffic intersections movement. Right now, a lot of those REL traffic and that backup I talked about, we experienced at the REL Twigs, is people coming down and then weaving themselves through downtown Tampa to get to other destinations. And we hope to shortchange some of that. So now I'll briefly go over what are the three big phases coming over the next 10 years for this. And the blue line is identifying westbound lane we want to add and some more ramp work we're doing. That project, when we break it out, is estimated to be about $157 million to start out there in FY or calendar year 2026. Next phase we'd look at is actually in downtown segment, throwing from the I-4 connector to the west, both east and westbound. We want to add another lane out there, and we also want to do a ramp improvements to the Jefferson Street ramp and the Breen Street ramps that are out there. We need more capacity. That Water Street improvement alone is adding 1 million square feet of office and 1 million square feet of commercial in this section of the downtown corridor zone, and it's going to be attracting a lot of traffic along with the residential. I think they're putting in something like 4,000 to 5,000 residential units in with that development, and they're not the only ones building in downtown Tampa. They just happen to be the biggest, namer out there. And the last segment that'll happen will be going eastbound because the REL is going to works well for us out here. This is kind of the last segment we'll have to do on that part of the Selmon Expressway. And that's going to be about $191 million that we don't think we need to start until 2029. So that's the big work there on that side of the Selmon. When you go back on the west side of the Selmon, or we call it Selmon South, because even though it's an east-west running roadway, on this segment, you can tell it kind of runs in a southerly, westerly direction. So we name it the South Selmon. That's what my engineers like. I think it confuses people a little bit because it's on the west side. But here we currently have 4 lanes, 2 in each direction. We want to add, ultimately in the future, up to 8 lanes. But we can do that in phases. We don't need any more right-of-way. We have all the right-of-way we need. And our plan right now is to build 1 more lane in each direction and do that to the outside. And as a component of this, when we build those lanes, we would be doing noise lanes along the entire length of this improvement. The noise analysis that the engineers perform says, well, you only need 1,200 feet. That's the only thing that, quote, the noise analysis justifies. Well, we realize, when our customers have said, we really want walls, we really want the barriers up there. So the agency's already committed to, when we do the first 2 lanes of this ultimate improvement, we're going to build those noise walls as part of this. And it's a part of that estimated cost that we have for this project. It currently sits at $270 million. And this we hope to start in around fiscal year 2023 is when we'd like to be putting this out for design build project. Again, we look at a lot of elements in here to improve safety, and I can highlight with some, especially at the interchanges. When you look at our existing interchange we have out there at Euclid Avenue, we want to smooth that traffic, and we're going to make it more compatible for bikes and for pedestrians by putting traffic signals out there that don't exist today. And we're doing things like putting 700 feet of new sidewalk out there that doesn't exist today. This is going to greatly improve the safety and the accessibility for pedestrians and bikes at our interchanges. And as you can see in the bottom left picture, we again, as we always do, focus on the aesthetics. What's it going to look like? We will have landscaping. We will have aesthetic lighting out there. And the same thing is true at our other significant interchange out there at Willow. You have right now, it's hard for me to show. I wish my mouse would show on this thing because I could show you the existing intersection at Cleveland Street.
It shows a little bit.
Okay, the existing intersection at Cleveland Street just brings you down right with a feed into Cleveland. It's very scary. It's kind of not scary, but it's it's tough because that traffic is moving at speed on Cleveland. You have to come to a complete stop, especially in the morning and evening rush hours to get on to Cleveland. Well, we're going to extend that down to the intersection and do a split intersection operation there. That's going to be much safer. And that will also incorporate signalized intersection with pedestrian and bikeways along there. And here again, there's another 600 feet of new pedestrian sidewalks that doesn't exist. And again, the landscaping and lighting is going to be a key element that we'll commit to as part of this project. And by making these improvements, we foresee significant reductions in projected crashes and injuries. It's all about being safer, smarter, and greener. By reducing congestion or keeping congestion under control, you greatly reduce carbon emissions and the negative effects to our environment. And it's a safer and more reliable trip for our customers. And that's what it's about. And keeping traffic out of the local communities and keeping them on the expressway. Because if you don't do these kind of improvements, they're going to go back. And if they're sitting in traffic congestion on the Selmon Expressway, they're going to get off the expressway and they're going to try and weave their way through all the local streets to get to where they want to go. So we want to give them a better option is the intent here. So, excuse me. I've talked about the major traditional type improvements that we can do. So I want to talk just a little about what else can you do? What's big in the future? What's coming our way? And we see a lot of opportunity with automation that's happening out there in the world. Virtual office, you know, COVID has delivered a very strong and new message to our business community. One of the best ways to reduce congestion or address congestion is don't make the trip. If you can work from home and via a virtual office, then, you know, that's a valid way to improve your transportation system by reducing the demand on your transportation systems. And that's going to benefit everybody in the business, from whether it's a roadway or a transit asset. Having that as an option is a great option to have going forward. And that's not an option that everybody can use, though. One of the early technological feats or accomplishments that we took on in our industry was removing toll booths. When we went to all electronic tolling 10 years ago, that was not a tried and proven technique. It was a very risky step for this agency to undertake. I'll give you a good, here's the business proposition. We're going to run a convenience store, and the convenience store won't have a cashier. It won't have anybody there in the store. We just open the doors and you walk in and you pick your product up. And if you have a credit card, which is the equivalent of a transponder, you know, in our cars, but if you have a credit card, you just, you know, wave your items in front of a camera and you swipe your credit card, you paid and you leave. Good business. But if you don't have a credit card, or in my case, a transponder in your car, we'll just, you know, take a picture of your face. We'll look you up on Facebook and we'll send you a bill in the mail. That's how all electronic tolling works. If you have a transponder, it's very easy and simple. You know, you go through your bill, your accounts, the transaction is done through your account. We've got our money, you paid for your trip. But if you don't have a transponder, we take a picture of your license plate, we look it up on a DMV database, and we send you the bill in the mail, and we hope you pay us. And if you don't pay us, we bother you a lot until you do hopefully pay us. But when 30% plus of your revenue stream depends on that, we'll send you a bill in the mail, you get an idea of how risky that business venture was. But the benefits were like this. We increased the capacity on the road by taking away that stop and go point. We reduced the environmental impacts. 50 tons of carbon emissions a year were taken off the table when we opened that roadway up. And we also actually saved money in terms of our toll operation costs. So when we looked at the risk and the net, we said it was a risk worth taking, and it's proven to be very beneficial. And where we've been doing it for 10 years, other agencies throughout the country are just now starting to convert to all electronic tolling because they see all those benefits for the communities. It's also safer because that stop-go creates more crash opportunities that now don't exist. So beyond that, what's coming? ACES is an acronym I use for automated, connected, electric, and shared. Automated vehicles are big in discussion. You see that a lot. in the news every day, and it's getting more automated. And a lot of features are being put in cars that will, take emergency actions for their driver that they don't see them, with emergency stop or backup warning signals with cameras and all that's happening. Connected, this is something we're very interested in. I'm going to talk a lot about that here in a moment. Electric is the idea. Connected is connecting vehicles to infrastructure and to other vehicles. Electric is about your power plants in your cars going from gas powered, combustion powered to electric. Well, when you convert your whole fleet, which is going to take a good 30 years because cars last so long now, when that whole fleet's out there running on electric, a lot of your air pollution worries go away. They really disappear. But your congestion and your growth don't go away. So you still have to accommodate that kind of demand is coming. And the shared is talking about things like Uber and Lyft, which are kind of the forerunners of what would be what we call transportation network companies. In the future, you may be doing things like, instead of buying a car, you might buy a subscription service to a transportation daily commute kind of thing. And that's what you do instead of buying a car. But I'm going to go to the connected vehicle. THEA is in the forefront on doing what we call connected vehicle technology. This is where you're putting communications units in vehicles and in your infrastructure on your roadsides that communicate with each other. And you can do things like do real-time safety applications on your corridors to make them better operating and smoother operating. You can we're exploring alternates to increase the penetration of this kind of technology right now today. You don't have to wait 10 years. A lot of the tech's around today, and our pilot is using that tech. And we're showing how, if you do this with our pilot, how you can affect, the growth you need to accommodate, as well as the safety issues that Vision Zero identifies as your ultimate goals. And along with all this is the federal government and the state government, they need to have data to base the regulatory requirements out there for this technology. And we are playing a key part in doing that right now with our pilot project. Our pilot project that we set up, phases 1 through 3, was done under a $22 million project, 17 million of which was a federal grant that we received. And with that project, we're testing in this area that's outlined. That's about a 1 square mile section of the central business district of the city of Tampa. Meridian Avenue is that area you see that's highlighted with the hash mark area. That's what we own and operate. And what we've done is we've created roadside units in excess of 40 units, and we put sensors in the traffic signals that you see highlighted with the circles on there. They're allowing us to do testing and detection of red light running, transit prioritization, because as part of this, we equipped 1,000 private vehicles with onboard units that we had to design, build, and then install into those vehicles. We also equipped a number of Hart's buses that regularly run in this zone, as well as the trolley systems that run in this zone. So we can do things like test transit prioritization. We can look for and detect pedestrian conflicts. We can do enhanced signal coordination so that you can smooth the flow of traffic down a roadway. We can do crash avoidance, because when you do the connected elements, the vehicles and the infrastructure can see around corners. So the car and the driver can't see what's approaching necessarily from an intersection, whereas our technology can see that, and it can relay that information over to the car who's approaching the intersection that there's a potential collision coming in your direction. We can also, all of this helps us do queue prevention, and at key areas like our reversible express lanes, we can also do wrong way driver detection. And if you have that onboard unit in our car, we will tell you, you're going the wrong way, you need to stop and turn around, all right? And we can also send out other units to vehicles if they're driving down that portion of the roadway in the correct direction. We can send them a message, there's a wrong way driver coming. And my recommendation, if you ever have a chance to get a warning like that, pull off to the side and just stop. Don't try to outguess the driver coming the wrong way. Just get out of the way as best you can. And it's amazing. Sometimes the wrong way drivers, in almost every case I've seen it happen, it's been because they've been a driver under the influence of some sort. and they've just made a bad decision. Well, they made a bad decision before they got in their car, but that's the kind of thing that this technology is helping us address. And we're now entered into what we call phase 4. This is really exciting because now we're bringing the auto manufacturers in to test on this network that we set up. We've had this network that I just showed you on the last page up and running for almost 2 years now. And we're going to keep it running because we're feeding data again up the U.S. Department of Transportation that's helping them see and understand how it works and helping them, again, look at what they've got to put out there in terms of guidelines and regulation to make it work. But now we're actually got private auto manufacturers interested in this technology, and they're coming down to use our test track and our connected vehicle facilities to test how their systems that they're installing it in their vehicles work with that technology. And as I sit here and talk to you today, we've got the reversible express lanes closed down. We have representatives of Honda, Hyundai, and Toyota out there doing test runs with their vehicles on our infrastructure to see how it works, because the sooner they can build that into their cars, the greater the benefit is. And when that fleet starts coming out 5, 10, 20 years from now, the maximum benefits to us will be derived. If we got as little as 30% of the fleet with this kind of technology in place, we'd start seeing significant safety and capacity improvements on our roadways. So that was a lot of talking. I don't know where I am in time exactly right now. Yep, I've kind of gone on it. So that's the presentation, folks. I'm open for any questions you may have.
Thank you so much, Joe. Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Roland.
No, go ahead.
No,
okay.
I was just going to say thank you and open it up for questions. So go ahead.
Okay. So in terms of car manufacturers, I don't see Tesla on there. And I would have thought with them being one of the leading, technologically advanced car manufacturers, that they would be one of the manufacturers on the list.
You would think, but it's interesting. You have different philosophies in some of the car manufacturers, and Tesla is one of them. Really has a different philosophy. They kind of think they don't need to be connected. They think their car is smart enough that it can do everything by itself. And I personally don't agree with that. They don't run my traffic signal systems or the city of Tampa's traffic signal system. Their car is smart, but it can't see around corners either. So we would like them to be connected to the infrastructure, which is, I think the federal government sees that the same way. And other automakers, like, as I just outlined, Toyota, Hyundai, and Toyota, Hyundai, and Honda. I keep forgetting Honda. I don't know why. My wife drives a Honda. But they take a different perspective on it. So Ford's doing this in other areas. They're interested in being connected, but Tesla, I think, represents a different perspective than others.
Okay.
Okay.
One more question that I have.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Somebody else has a question? You can go. I already had a question. I'll ask after you.
Joe, I like that from coming from 275, hit on the expressway where it connects to I-4 to get onto 275. I-75 to I-4 to 275.
Yep.
I know when you get off onto I-4 there, it's just a traffic mess right there. Oh, what a disaster
That's the downtown interchange.
Yeah.
The downtown interchange.
I know you're not in charge of that, but who can we talk to about that? I'm just joking.
Good news on that is DOT just got the MPO to approve what they're calling downtown interchange safety improvements.
Yeah.
They're going to be adding lanes from I-4 to go northbound on the I-75. They're going to be adding lanes that come from southbound I-75 to eastbound I-4.
Yeah.
In there, they're also adding other lanes through that section that are going to make it much safer and provide some more capacity in there today. DOT has worked for a number of years to get something that our county would approve. And literally last board meeting, which I sat in, it went from 6 to 11 o'clock at night. So it was a long board meeting. It was approved. So DOT
The
has got
275.
everything they need to start making that improvements time-wise. Now it's just a function of getting the money and
Right.
getting it under contract.
In that 275 I-4 disaster, is that what you're talking about?
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
My God, thank God they're thinking about that.
Yeah, that's called the downtown. The DOT's been trying to make improvements to that. I've been here 14 years.
Yeah.
That's been a conversation for all 14 years I've been here.
Imagine.
The
Yeah.
local communities objected to the original design concepts that DOT put out there because they were taking a number of houses and it was more impactful to the community. So DOT, kept scaling. They scaled it back to something and came up with some alternative solutions that will provide relief and make it operate much better. And that was just approved by the MPO last month.
Wow. Okay. We'll see that in what, 20 years or 10 years?
I think you'll see that much sooner. I think, the DOT trust fund had been impacted by COVID, as had mine. My traffic was down by as much as 50% last April. But we've been climbing out of it ever since then. My traffic is currently down about 4% over what it was in 2019.
Yeah.
DOT's is coming back faster. They're almost back to what they were in 2019. So that means their revenue sources are coming back too. My hit is on tolls. Their hit is on gas sales because they get their money from gas taxes. So they had to pull a lot of money out of their program, but it's coming back. And with the federal relief programs, if the feds approve some of those transportation initiatives they're still talking about up there, if one of those comes through, I think you can see DOT accelerate that downtown interchange very quickly.
Nice.
Yeah, that would be a blessing. Well, that's been since I've been in radio here for, I don't even want to say how long, but we've always called that the malfunction junction on our traffic reports, and everybody knows what that is.
They're my friends. So I won't call it that, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
That was a nicer word than what I've heard.
Yeah, I know. Well, I've been sitting there saying not so nice words either many, many times.
I've been in there with you. I know exactly what you're talking about. I use that to go to the airport. I live down Apollo Beach.
Oh.
So when they built that, when we made that connection to the Selmon to the I-4, my commute to the airport was dropped by 15 minutes.
Wow.
But even when I make that commute on off-peak hours or weekends, like going through the downtown interchange is still a challenge, even off-peak on a weekend.
I taught my 16-year-old how to drive, and I said, we got to go through this disaster area. Coming from 275 on I-4 and start wiggling your way in there. It's like, oh my God, you got to learn that. And I took him over there, and he tells all of his 16-year-old friends, oh my God, you wouldn't believe what I had to do.
Well, one of the things that I keep telling people is that, the county's going to have to go back for another transportation referendum, right? Are you all aware of that? The last referendum that went through, the Supreme Court failed it because it prescribed how the monies would be distributed. There was a 1 penny to the sales tax that was going to go just for transportation. Right. And that was repealed by the Supreme Court of Florida. So they've got to go out again in 22. And as part of that, our transportation challenges in Hillsborough County are huge. We're forecasting a 50% growth in our population by 2045.
Wow.
That 50% growth in population is going to come with a 50% increase in transportation demand. So where you're congested today, it's going to be much, much worse if we don't do something. And what I keep preaching to people is I build express toll roads, but you need more than that. You need transit. And some people are, well, we need transit and we need just everything transit. No, you're going to need transit and you're going to need roads. It can't be one or the other. It's got to be everything. Today, 98, closer to 99% of your trips are on your roadways. Well, 100% of your trips are on your roadways. Less than 2% of them are via transit. All right. So if you're going to grow and you set an audacious goal to triple your transit ridership the next 20 years, that would be an audacious goal, and you're going to need a referendum to pay for that. But even if you tripled your transit ridership, that would still leave 90% of that growth to people in cars or people in trucks and vans delivering goods and services. So you need to make improvements to your roadways. You need to add lanes of capacity. So where you have a chance to support DOT, where they're making improvements to the downtown interchange, or where they want to make improvements to I-75 or to I-75 or to 301 or all those other state roads, that they give them the support they need, and where you're looking to your county commissioners or your city council people, your mayor, remember that roads are a part of the conversation. You're going to need capacity enhancements there as well.
Well, and the transit has been struggling quite a bit.
Transit is always trapped. This is coming from, where I worked at a DOT where I got to see transit. Transit is in this conundrum. Transit doesn't cover, unlike tolling. Okay, my facility for my user fees, all right, I can cover all my operations, maintenance, and administration. My system preservation, if I have to resurface, if I have to redeck a bridge, I can cover that cost, all right? If I want to add on to my facility, build a $230 million extension to the facility, I can sell bonds, and I can fund that with cash and bonds, and I can do that. I don't need tax support to provide my services. That doesn't work for all roadway solutions, and it doesn't work for transit. Roadway solutions are handled by what you can call a user fee, by the gas tax. And what's happening to roadways is, as you get more of those electric vehicles in the mix, their gas tax revenue goes down because they don't buy gas. Right now, that's where their money. So when they do a forecast looking forward, their revenue, their trust fund is going to be declining. So their ability to maintain, operate, and build new is getting reduced. So they're looking more to toll type applications where they can. But importantly, they're going to have to compensate where that vehicle fleet becomes electric. They're going to have to see how do we regain the user fees to maintain that. Transit, here's the transit picture. They get a fare box, the bus passenger ticket they pay when they get on the bus. That ticket price doesn't cover half of their operating cost. You're lucky if your fare box, buying the ticket, equals fare back. They're lucky if 30% of that, they're lucky if that covers 30% of your operating costs. All right. So over time, what happens with transit is they have this fixed share of tax revenue, be it from an ad valorem source or a sales tax. It's a flat thing that doesn't grow over time. So as their costs escalate, their ability to continue to maintain and operate, rises, but that level revenue source keeps eating in, the inflation keeps eating into it. So at some point, they're going to have to come back and ask for another tax increase to cover the ongoing O&M costs, never mind to grow the service.
Yeah.
So right now, if they're doing a penny for transportation, and they're going to get 45% of that to transit, that gives them an opportunity to grow it. But over time, 15, 20 years from now, they're going to have to come back to the trough to ask for another installment to cover that decreasing value of their future revenue stream, because it's not inflation sensitive. But right now, where hard is, I don't think they've had a revenue increase on their side for a decade or more.
No.
So they've had to continuously cut service just to keep running a transit option at all.